everyone, Nicole, Russo, and Dan Illman coming to you with the latest on the Oaks countdown for DRFTV. The final major point prep races, those offering 100 points to the respective winners and on down the scale, are now in the books. And so the Oaks field is really starting to come together. So let's start by taking a look at that. That Oaks field will be limited to 14 starters on May 5th, with up to 4 also eligibles able to be listed on the program. So here are those current top 14 with some new names on the board after the weekend's 3 major races.
It seems that we say this every week, Nicole, but if you were looking for clarity from last week's prep races, you might not have found any. Defining Purpose, 20-1 winner of the Grade 1 Ashland. Promiser America, 26-1 winner of the Grade 3 Gazelle. Feza, who is ineligible for the Kentucky Oaks, she won the Santa Anita Oaks very, very easily. You could make the argument that the big winner from last week's races is our points leader, Wet Paint.
Yeah, absolutely. Who was certainly flattered by Defining Purpose's upset victory in the Ashland over a pretty good field. And speaking of that good field, there are obviously some pretty big names not currently in that top 14. So let's take a look at the next fillies down on the points list, many of whom are going to head to Churchill Downs and train as if they're going to the race and watch and wait, as almost inevitably you'll have 1 or 2 candidates drop out over the next few weeks, but you're not quite in control of your own destiny. And those horses include the likes of Wonder Wheel and Julia Shining and Hoosier Filly. You'll see Red Carpet Ready down there, who we've highlighted because she is a little bit in control of her own destiny. Expected to run in the Beaumont this coming Sunday at Keeneland. It's the final Oaks prep race. It only is designated as a minor prep with 10 points to the winner, but she could shuffle this list around a little bit with a victory. She does have to win.
She certainly could, although it could be argued that even if Red Carpet Ready was to win the Beaumont, and even if she was able to get into the Kentucky Oaks, is that truly the race for her? Is she truly a 2-turn filly at heart, or is she more of a sprinter miler type? So we'll have to see what the connections opt to do. You mentioned the big names on the bubble. Wonder Wheel, last year's juvenile filly champion. Mark Casse took a little bit of a chance. He decided to sort of put all his eggs in the Ashland basket. It didn't pay off. She didn't run well, and it's fair to question whether she's as good at 3 as she was at 2. And Todd Pletcher did the same thing with the beautifully bred Julia Shining. He was looking to get those points in the Ashland. Julia Shining ran okay in the Ashland, but she's still a work in progress if you watch her run. She's sort of a grinding filly that lacks that explosive gear. Maybe you need to take her back and make 1 run, but I'm not sure what we saw from her in the Ashland is enough to like her in the Kentucky Oaks if she were to get into the race.
She's very much still a work in progress. That's exactly what trainer Todd Pletcher said after the race, that she improved with the addition of blinkers, but he doesn't think we've seen the best of her yet. And Julia Shining ran in the Ashland, which is part of a lot of ground we've got to cover today. We'll certainly be analyzing some of these fillies more in coming weeks, but let's give you a run through the replays of the weekend's major preps. First up on Friday's opening day card at Keeneland, it was Defining Purpose, getting away from Oaks' favorite Wet Paint, who has defeated her twice down at Oaklawn, catching a dry track here at Keeneland and pulling the upset in the Ashland. Punch Bowl was second in just her 3rd career start and first stakes attempt. Julia Shining, as we just mentioned, 3rd there on the outside in the Yellow Silks with the addition of blinkers. And Wonder Wheel, just that disappointing 6th on the track she won a pair of Grade 1s on last year.
Defining Purpose got a beautiful trip and ride by Brian Hernandez Jr. She got right up close to the pace, and she always seemed to be traveling very sweetly, and her getting the jump on horses like Punch Bowl and Julia Shining certainly helped out with that short stretch of the mile and a 16th run at Keeneland. That being said, she's now won her last 2 races on fast dirt. The 2 losses to Wet Paint came over sloppy tracks, but like many of the fillies in this crop, she's yet to run a fast race. We just saw a career best buyer from her, and it was only an 83. Punch Bowl might have some of the more upside, let's just say, than many of these fillies, because you mentioned how lightly raced she is. But even if she were to get into the Kentucky Oaks, would it be too much too soon?
Yeah, she certainly got a litmus test in the Ashland and really ran on gamely between horses. But that's a very good point about her light race record. Then the following day at Aqueduct, there was another chance for somebody to step up in what looked like a pretty wide open field in the Gazelle. And it was Promise Her America, a daughter of Triple Crown winner American Pharoah, who delivered, punching her ticket to the Oaks with 100 points, going to head to the Philly Classic as a supplemental nominee. Shitabuti, a filly who we've discussed this spring on the Oaks Countdown, finishing third there in the green. That might be a little far for her as well. We had talked a little bit about her going 2 turns, going beyond a mile.
It seems she flattened out a little bit at the end. I don't want to take anything away from the winner, who has improved as the distances increase. And the Gazelle is a potentially important Kentucky Oaks prep because it's at the 1.125 distance. And Promise Her America seemed to relish every inch of that 1.125. She is by American Pharoah. She seems to be getting better, but she only earned an 82 buyer speed figure for that victory. Again, we can still project improvement for most of these fillies. They're extremely lightly raced. It would be nice to see a fast race coming in. It's what makes this Oaks a handicapping challenge, to be sure.
Absolutely. They're all they're on a very even keel right now, and we're looking for somebody to run that breakout race in the Oaks and really move to the top of the class. But finally, in our 3 weekend preps out at Santa Anita on Saturday evening, Feza continued to show herself as one of the best fillies of this crop with her Santa Anita Oaks romp. We'll surely hear from her later in the season when races begin to have additional championship implications. But for our purposes, she's out of the Oaks picture as owner Mike Peterson didn't transfer her away from trainer Bob Baffert, and thus she's not eligible for the Kentucky Oaks in the last year of Baffert's 2-year ban. The most consistent filly in California behind her has been And Tell Me No Lies, ran second again to her there in the Santa Anita Oaks. And if you think Feza is an elite talent, you're going to get a decent value on And Tell Me No Lies as she heads to Kentucky.
You certainly are, and I think I like the prep progression, the way Peter Miller's handled And Tell Me No Lies. She's now raced twice. She has paired up buyer tops in both of those races. Now, those buyers are very light, 78, and she was no match for Feza. But if you think Feza is head and shoulders above the rest of the division, Nicole, you make an excellent point. And Tell Me No Lies looks like a filly that can improve. She has run some good races. She's already a Grade 1 stakes winner, and she is lurking under the radar from a handicapping standpoint. Does she need to improve? She certainly does, but so do many of these fillies.
Absolutely. We keep talking about we're waiting for somebody to take that step forward. We're going to be doing so much more analysis of Defining Purpose, Promise Her America, and Tell Me No Lies, all the rest in the coming weeks leading up to the Oaks. We will have the final points leaderboard toward the Oaks next week after that Beaumont this weekend at Keeneland. And we'll really begin our analysis in that final countdown to the Kentucky Oaks here on DRFTV.